Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. He's got Mike Washington still out on assignment. He promised that he'd be back next week, so we'll see if we can catch him on the road. As I want to give a shout out to Charles being able to get down to the SWAC tournament covering it. I thought I was heading to the MEAC, but the world of work would not allow me to be great last weekend, supposedly spring break. But, you know, now as administrator, which I was, but the dean of the college education here at Texas Southern University, some couple of things that I had to get done, take care of, would not allow me to get on the road. But I wanted to say glad that you were able to represent for Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles, how was the tournament?
The tournament was really good. Really enjoyed it in terms of first class atmosphere. In terms of teams really laying it out there on the court. You take your hat off to Jackson State. You take your hat off to Grambling for getting it done on the women's and men's side. But you had some really good games along the way. Alcorn, surprising run on the women's side. Tremendous run to get themselves to the championship game. And especially with what was going on in Coach Nate Kilbert's personal life. I thought that was one of the storylines that I thought was in terms of the players not even knowing that he had a sister, I believe, who passed away just prior to the tournament. So that was heartwarming, to see Alcorn make that run to the championship game. And I thought you had some spirited contests on the men's side, some very lively Alabama A&M fans that were there that brought their team on to victory on a couple of occasions. But it was a good tournament. I enjoyed the experience.
Good stuff. Glad you mentioned that. Let me give some shout outs as we get in here into this show for those that truly jump on here and follow us. Ricky, Carol, Silas, Chuck is in the building as always. Edwin, G Boone is in here. Chad in the building. So by now, everybody has known that Jackson State won the SWAC basketball tournament on the women's side. Obviously, on the men's side, Grambling State won the championship, and both of those programs did the double dip. They won the regular season and the tournament, which doesn't always happen. Really solid when you see that happen for these programs. Obviously, Jackson State earned the 14 seed. Grambling State will play tomorrow in the first four as a 16 seed. So that's fascinating when you get on that side of things of what that looked like. When you go into the MEAC, you had Norfolk State on the women's side get it done. They won the regular season and the tournament, so they did the double-double. But on the men's side, you have a bit of an upset in terms of Norfolk winning the regular season, but Howard got it done. And in that case, you have both Norfolk State and Howard going back-to-back. So that should be some interesting discussion because, as I put out there, in a lot of ways, the big 100-pound gorilla, particularly on the men's side, we've seen the women continue to do what they do. Norfolk State, Jackson State, regular season, postseason. Obviously, we had a little difference last year in regards to Southern winning the championship. Norfolk State, as they finally got over the hump on the women's side, they went back to back and they holding it down. On the men's side, you got new sheriffs in town, if you would, new kings of the mountains in terms of Grambling, representing regular season, finally getting that big chip off their shoulder. I love the meme that's out there with the guy looking on his back and said, it's my understanding we've left that room as if they're leaving it behind. I thought that was apropos in terms of what that looks like so perfectly. But Howard now back to back regular season, even though they couldn't get in the regular season, now all of a sudden they get it done. So that's fascinating, kind of new kings on the block. Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Texas Southern. Yeah, kind of, to me, have to welcome new people to the club.
Yeah.
Big boys sitting at the table. They got to pull up 2 chairs.
Well, that's gonna bring up an interesting question as I asked Doc the question of the day later on in this show. So that's good segue, if you will, into something we'll ask you about a little bit later on. Huh?
Perfect for allowing me to set that up. Good thing. Let me go back to you and see what other news of the day that you wanted to share out there in terms of what's on your mind in terms of the HBCU landscape.
I think this is a breaking news this afternoon as we have come to see. Normally at the end of the season, we have guys who hit the transfer portal, and Jackson State's leading scorer, SWAC Player of the Year, Ken Evans. He will be entering the transfer portal to kind of see what his interest is with regards to some other opportunities. But, this is part and parcel. This is the landscape nowadays of what we see both on the football and basketball side in terms of players looking to get into the transfer portal and see what other opportunities are out there for them. So Ken Evans, Jackson State's top scorer, SWAC Player of the Year, hits the transfer portal today.
You got to imagine more is coming in terms of what that looks like. So that's going to be fascinating when you talk about Ken Evans. You also have Alabama A&M announces leadership change in the women's basketball program as Coach Richards steps down. Obviously, Morrell Carter had a nice clip where he interviewed the AD of Alabama A&M in terms of Dr. Bryant. And one of the things that I called in there was he was quick to make sure that he talked about it not being a firing, that it was a mutual decision. And actually, in a lot of ways that the coach stepped down. Some people are saying part of that is the fact that she has a new chapter, celebrating the fact that she is getting married, planning for a wedding. And as we know, that's a lot involved.
There's a lot involved.
And certainly a change in your life, dichotomy. So you can certainly see why somebody would want to change direction. I imagine doesn't necessarily mean that she won't ever get back into coaching, but probably want to step away. We've seen this a couple of years ago when the previous Mississippi Valley State, Tennessee State coach, her husband was a football coach at Marshall. She ended up wanting to start a family and step down for coaching from that perspective. So it's fascinating when you see this, particularly on the women's side. You see changes of the guidance that time of year as well. So we'll see if there's any additional changes, but I thought that was something was on the table. With that being said, let me shift back to you and see any other direction that you want to go in terms of what's on the table as well.
Well, I know I wanted to make sure we got this cleared up because when we say Grambling men's basketball team claimed their first ever SWAC tournament title, there was. Thank you.
I know where you're going, you warm my heart. Please, the historian.
Yeah,
and I will say this before you get in there. I know I'm gonna say it. I will acknowledge the color commentator doing the SWAC championship game with Grambling and Texas Southern, and they were talking about that throughout. But finally, at the end, he did put that explanation point at the end. But I'll allow you to share exactly what that was.
Well, and I know there's been a lot of scuttlebutt that you've seen on social media with regards to this isn't Grambling's first time winning the SWAC tournament, but it is their first time winning the SWAC tournament and going to the NCAA tournament. So that's that has to be put out there, so to speak, and that's why I was throwing it to you, Doc, to make sure our listeners just kind of understood that, because it's been a lot of scuttlebutt on social media in terms of saying how much people have gotten it wrong and things of that nature. But there's no doubt about it. Grambling did win an NAIA national championship back in 1961, but they've never won a SWAC tournament since its inception.
Correct. And they also qualified for the NCAA Division II tournament.
Yeah.
People often forget the history of the SWAC. It goes back a long time, 1920. And people's amazement, they may not realize that the SWAC was not always a member of the NCAA because at one time there was segregation in this country. De jure segregation, however you want to see it, in terms of apartheid in the South, as rightly should be called as we recognize it today. And obviously, we didn't join the NCAA in any framework. Small college university divisions, if you want to use that nomenclature, which was Division II and didn't become a Division I member until late 70s. First, it was members of the NAIA in terms of that. When they finally opened the door, where you see the national championship. Willis Reed was on that team, battling at the same time with Prairie View's M.O. Beatty, who also won a national championship. You have several national championships. The team they played, Texas Southern University, won an NAIA championship and happened to be the last HBCU to win an NAIA championship from the SWAC at the time, which is 77 in terms of Coach Moreland that we know, frat brother of ours, as he said that, and he's elder still with us. And obviously there might be a chance that Langston changes all that this year as they continue to make their run in the NAIA tournament, which would be a pleasant surprise. But yes, I'm glad you bring it up. Excellent point when you talk about the fact that this is their first Division I SWAC tournament championship when the SWAC had an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Because at one time, the SWAC did not have automatic bids, and you can go back to the history of the Braves, Alcorn State Braves, that had a wonderful season and did not qualify for the tournament and had to go to the NIT. Famous Indiana. Jackson State has had that framework in terms of what that looks like.
Knocked out UConn.
Which you cannot get an automatic bid. At that time, they were getting bids because the teams were so talented. So, yeah, you're right. Let's dance down some of this history and make sure people understand what took place when we put this out there in regards to, yes, celebrating this accomplishment, but not belittling Grambling State in regards to the rich legacy and history they have, not only in their athletic program, but overall. But to the point, kudos to Dr. Travion Scott, the coach, and the players who have created a new framework for a new chapter at Grambling, the G, as a lot of people like to say in there, in terms of their men's basketball. So a rich tradition. So I'm glad that you put that out there. I did want to share this before we go to the next break and break down our polls. We have some other teams playing in play. That starts tonight, in fact. We have two different management groups. You have the CBI, CIT. Some people get them confused, so I'm going to break it down. CBI is the College Basketball Invitational. That has a host location, which happens to be Daytona. They did that as the first year last year, coming back under COVID as they reloaded that tournament. And in that tournament, you have Delaware State representing the MEAC, and they will play Seattle, and our very own Bethune-Cookman, for those that are followers of the SWAC, as they play Arkansas State. So we have two HBCUs, of very own HBCUs, playing in the CBI. In the CIT, you have three teams. You have Texas Southern out of the SWAC. They will play Tarleton State. That is tonight. They're on the road there. You have Alabama A&M of the SWAC playing Austin P. And Norfolk State, that actually had first a TBA, but understanding they actually got a bye in terms of the second round, and they will actually play the winner of Alabama A&M and Austin P. So you could have your SWAC MEAC matchup, which will be fascinating because remember, in terms of non-conference play, you had 5 SWAC MEAC matchups where the SWAC prevailed 3 of the 5 times in terms of this. So you could get a commanding lead of 4-2 if that matchup happens, or things could go back to 500. So something to keep your eyes on, as I always like to keep some data on the MEAC SWAC matchups. Some of the teams that either turn down bids or in terms of probably were offered or in position Jackson State, Tennessee State, North Carolina Central, Alabama State, and Southern were some teams that had really solid season. They were in positions for one reason or other, did not get the invite or were invited and turned the invites down. So those are some things that you probably want to know in regards on the men's side. Obviously, some of the women's side got some WNIT mids as well. So something to keep your mind in terms of we talk about those teams as they play in these tournaments. So with that being said, let's take our first break, come back on the other side. Before they do that, though, it's time to talk a little bit about baseball. As we were so focused on the SWAC tournament, I was sneaking around and got a chance to see the opening weekend for SWAC baseball. Softball started. Some fascinating matchups. Charles, Jackson State made a statement, taking 2 out of Alabama State. A lot of rain, so you got a lot of rain out. Texas in Southern, but games were canceled. Prairie View swept, brought out the brooms against Arkansas Pine Bluff, just to name some of the matches. And we'll get into some more. But we'll save a lot of that for Thursday, really start to get into some baseball and talk about the weekends. But I want to just kind of sneak that out there to make sure people are not sleeping in terms of what's taking place in baseball and softball. With that, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side, talk about these poll rankings, Charles. We'll go with our mid-major and the women and see what changes took place after these tournaments. You know, one to watch. You asked this question last week. Fayetteville State, did they jump your team, Charles? We'll see. Stick with us. Be right back after this break. Maybe that's a little hint. I don't know. Maybe it's a team. Maybe not.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Grills inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop, who's in the building. With that being said, Charles, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Before we get into it real quick, let me shout out the broadcast teams that made their trek to the SWAC tournament. Definitely want to shout out Grandma's broadcast team, Texas Southern. You had Alcorn, Charles Edmond, of course, broadcasting Braves, Jackson State, Rob J. But a lot of these broadcast teams, part of the tapestry of the tournament. And for a lot of individuals who don't have ESPN Plus, where it was being broadcast until ESPNU. They are still the voice of the team and things of that nature. So I definitely want to shout out those broadcast teams and those schools who are putting resources into a quality broadcast.
Also, Bethune-Cookman.
Bethune-Cookman, Cat-Eye Network.
They added the Cat-Eye Network. They added a framework where they did YouTube. And obviously, because of the rights belong to ESPN, they couldn't show the game, but they showed the broadcasters. I thought was unique. And so they had the audio of the game. So you're absolutely right. That's still a strong vehicle out there. And there's some teams, unfortunately, that didn't put the resources in terms of providing their fans that do not have the ability to watch ESPN Plus to be able to hear the broadcast. So that's important. I think there's a unique opportunity to see more of that. So maybe we should look into exploring that and get more into it and kind of see what the fans think in terms of having a major broadcast that does all the games during the tournament or something like that. We'll see what that looks like. You know, open mic is out there, but, you know, maybe we can add to that content and some mic out there. Shout out to Dr. Prince, Open Mic Network as well. With that being said, in terms of the mid-major top five, we're getting to the closing period. So somebody's going to hold that trophy. As you know, Russ has held it down all season. Fayetteville State has been right there. You had a couple other teams that put their names in the mix. We'll see what that looks like. I will say this as we get into the poll rankings. There was not any team that dropped out this week. Not any team dropped out this week. But in terms of receiving votes, you have two that I will call out that receive votes, both out, one out of the CIAA, one out of the SIAC. Virginia State Lady Trojans, 23-5, 13-4. They did not make the Division II tournament. People thought maybe they should in terms of what they did. And you have Savannah State Tigers, 20-6. Both of them were left out of the playoffs and represented. So let's get into the top five in terms of seeing what has changed in the top five. At number 5, you have the Miles Lady Golden Bears, 23-7, 15-4. They did make the tournament in terms of the NCAA Division II. They lost in the first round of that. So they fall to 23-7 on the season, 15-4 in terms of the conference race, and with 5 votes. So they stay at number 5. At number 4, Xavier, Louisiana, the Gold Nuggets. They made the NIA tournament, but they also lost in the first round. They fall to 25-7, 19-3 in the conference play over there in the GCAC, which I can't help to say enough times that in July 1st will change to the HBCU Athletic Conference. They have 53 points and stay at number 4. Bringing us to the Langston Lions, another NIA program. This one out of the Sooner Athletic Conference. They also made the NIA tournament. They fall in the first round. So they fall in terms of their overall record to 24-8, 17-5. And as you see, all these teams with 20-plus wins.
Yeah.
Closing out the season, making the tournament. So big deal right there, 60 points. Bringing us to number 2. This is where it gets a little interesting. West Lady Bearcats, they fall as they did make the NIA tournament. They're out of the GCAC again. That's going to be the HBCU Athletic Conference, AC. They fall in the first round of the NAIA tournament and conclude their season at a record of 28-4, 17-1 in conference play. Nothing to shake your head at. They do have 2 first-place votes, so all is not lost. 74 points, but they do fall from the number 1 rankings that they held pretty much all year long.
Yeah.
But number 1, Fayetteville State Lady Broncos, 29-2, 17-1, 6 first-place votes, 78 points. They move up and now are the new number 1 ranked team. What's to say about them? They had 2 wins in the NCAA Division II tournament. Actually playing today as they continue to play in terms of the tournament. You'll get some updates from some of our listeners up there to see what they're doing. But kudos to Fayetteville State Lady Broncos. as they are making a run in the NCAA Division II tournament and are this close to getting 30 wins on the season.
Yeah.
They get to win today. Not only will they continue in the tournament, get to that 8, I believe, is left, because they're playing for their regional championship today. Big time. 6 first-place votes. But with that being said, I can't wait to see what Charles has to say in terms of my rankings. I know he had some concern. And he said that if they make a run in the tournament, it probably had to be more than 1 win.
Yeah.
But they got to the magical 2 wins and are still playing. Capped off with the fact that the Rush Lady Bearcats, for them, unfortunately, lost in that first round. Charles, take it away. What do you have to say about the mid-major poll ranking?
I can't argue with it. I mean, by virtue of the fact the Fayetteville State Lady Broncos are still alive, kudos to them for being the first HBCU team to advance to the Sweet 16 of the Division II women's basketball tournament since Bowie State did it back in 2018. But I can't argue them being number 1. I knew something like this had a chance for happening, and for Fayetteville State to get 2 wins, I think in postseason, that speaks volumes about their program. Like you said, with the opportunity to get to 30 wins tonight, I can't argue whatsoever with them being the number 1 team. So kudos to the Fayetteville State Lady Broncos, as it looks like you're going to be tabbing them women's national champion. Eh?
Yeah, and I do have an update. That game was at 5 o'clock, and that was Eastern time. And they lost to the number 1 team in that region, Gannon. That was in the NCAA Sweet 16, as they do call over there. They fall 47-72. So their season comes to end just before they went to St. Joseph, Missouri, where you have the Elite 8, the top 8 teams. Unlike you think about Division I, where you have the Final 4. What's big for the Division II is they actually send 8 teams to one site and start with the Elite 8, where they go to the Final 4 and then the championship game. Fall, again, that was a score of 72-47. But kudos to Fayetteville State for a great season. In terms of getting the playoffs, it will be interesting to see what the computers do, what the voters rank in terms of the final poll ranking, as we will be able to release that next week. So before we get too far into baseball and softball, we'll have a little closure on basketball in terms of what that looks like. We still have some teams that have a chance with the CIT, CBI, or NCAA at the Division I level. So we'll see what that looks like. But before we get into the major division, those Division I programs poll rankings, let's take a break. We'll come back on the other side and give you the mid-major for the men and tell you what's happening there. Stick with us. Be right back after this next break.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get 'em.
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Give a shout out to Emma representing Daytona Beach over there. Stan is in the building. Shout out to Grambling getting it done. Lennon is in here. He said his Norfolk State shot the bits. You know, he shoots straight chaser. He'll let you know whether it's goes for him on his side or not. He says he's already in the football season, ready for homecoming and laid out his game schedule. I was like, man, can we just get to the MEAC SWAC challenge? But we plan to be there in Atlanta, so hopefully we can catch up with you, Lennon, in terms of saying appreciate you and shake your hands of supporting us throughout the years. Certainly excited about that. Thomas is in the building, showing us some love as well. So Willie, always representing the CIAA, getting it done as well. Edwin, as we talk about, is in the space, chopping it up, getting some good mixture and stuff out there. With that being said, let's get into the mid-major division for the men's. Not any changes here, but we'll go through it. Give you some updates as we do this, so to give you a chance to talk about what's going on in these NCAA Division II and NIA tournaments, to give you some updates there. But nobody dropped out. Top two programs, Tougaloo Bulldogs and Benedict Tigers, both of those programs earned bids to their respective tournaments. For the Bulldogs, that's the NAIA, and for the Tigers, that's the NCAA Division II. Unfortunately, both programs lost. So Bulldogs, Tougaloo, dropped to 23-7 overall in the season. 15-3, still a tremendous great season. Benedict Tigers also lose in the NCAA Division II tournament, both of them in their first round. So the Tigers dropped to 23-8 overall, 15-6 in terms of the season. Two other teams I do want to talk about that are outside of the top 7. Further down the list, right at would be number 8 is Texas College Steers, because they played in the NIA tournament. They lost as well, unfortunately, for HBCU fans out there. They fall to 22-9 on the season, 17-5. Also, you had Lincoln, Pennsylvania, the Lions, that won the CIAA championship on the men's side. They lose in the Division II tournament. They fall to 17-14 on the season, 10-7. But kudos to all those programs as they made the tournament. Some of them winning their conference championship tournament. So good stuff. With that being said, let's get into the Magic. Top 5. As I said, this will not be new to you. You've seen this order, but some new to the show this week may not have a chance to catch it, whether it was YouTube in terms of the demand or catching us live on the BCSN network right here, either on YouTube as well as Facebook and Twitter, Instagram out there on our different live stream feeds. Again, appreciate you all that are watching on the other valuable networks. And for those that listen as you check out the podcast, kudos to our producer today, Brian, being able to get that out and make sure people that like to listen to things on a podcast are able to do that. Without further ado, top 5 programs. Philander Smith Panthers, 21-9 as they fall, as they made the tournament, NAIA, but lost in the first round. And as I said, they fall to 21-9 overall, They went 14-4 in the conference race, as you know, 45 points, staying in the 5th position. And number 4, you had the Florida Memorial Lions. They came in with the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. So a little disappointed that they couldn't make it out of their first round. 21-9 as they fall overall. They were 14-4, much like the Panthers, and that's out of that Sun Conference over there. 57 points. They did win their tournament championship. They stay at number 4. Bringing us to number 3, the Miles Golden Bears. They are 22 overall, 15-4, 65 points in terms of what took place there. Clark Atlanta Panthers that made the NCAA Division II won a championship, kind of taking the next step in terms of what they like to see their program. They won the conference championship SIAC, therefore got the bid to the NCAA Division II tournament. Held themselves on in terms of their tough matchup, but they do fall, which puts them at 25-6 overall in the season, 16-5, 70 points, and they stay in that number 2 spot. I think this is a team to watch, the Clark Atlanta Panthers out of Atlanta. Obviously, a lot of talk about the Atlanta market right now. Clark Atlanta. So I'm going to keep my eyes. I'm going to get to a game out there. I haven't had the pleasure. You know me. I like to do bucket list stuff, Charles. And I haven't had the pleasure to go to that Clark Atlanta Morehouse game. I think I want to get to that this year. And when I say this year, that's probably 24-25 season when you think about basketball from that framework. I want to get to that matchup. I want to see that basketball, and I think I want to see it in the Epps Arena. I have got Epps as they had a classic where they faced off, and they played it one of the times during the Celebration Bowl weekend. And you know me, I snuck over there, and we got a chance to check out that game as they were playing some CIAA teams. So I want to see a different image of that stadium during that time of the year. And with that being said, as we get to the NIA program, even though we're not speaking about this particular one, and it's no longer a conference matchup, but I want to see that as well. New Orleans, I plan to get down to that, and I think I'll see it in Dillard, since that's going to be what would be the HBCU Athletic Conference, facing off on the Red River Athletic Conference with the Dillard Xavier matchup. I want to see what that looks like and get a chance to check that out as well. But our number 1 team is out of the NIA. It is the Langston Lions, 32-1 overall, 21-1. They played in the NIA tournament, and they've won their first 2, and they will actually qualify to go to the finals, Kansas City, as they get up there and will be able to make what many of us believe is a final run, what could be a national championship. When we talked a little bit in the first segment about what historical nature that would be in terms of the NIA program getting back there. But fascinating. You know, head coach Chris obviously did it with the Tougaloo Bulldogs as he took them to a championship, and they just were up against a team that would not be denied. They only had, 3 or 4, I think 4 losses that season, maybe 5. Like all 4 or 5 losses were against the team that actually won the national championship, that they faced in the national championship game that year. So that was intriguing to say the least. But making it seems like another run at it, and this time with Langston Lions, 32-1, 21-1 overall, all 8 first place votes. Not a lot of questions here, Charles, but do me a favor, entertain me, and let me know your thoughts on the top 5. No changes. I know last week you may have thought maybe somebody else should jump in there. With everything said, we did have tournament play. Not a lot of success, whether it was D2 or NAIA, outside of obviously Langston and the run that they're making. Shout out to them representing all HBCUs at this time. What are your thoughts on the mid-major poll rankings in week number 11?
Well, obviously, Langston is a deserving number 1. They should have swept all 8 first-place votes. But the thing that catches my eye with regards to Langston is they're doing it in a dominant fashion. I think they were up on Bellevue in the tournament, almost up 50 points, you know. So they're putting their foot down on teams' throats and not taking their foot off the gas. So what they're doing is a phenomenal 32 wins on the season. But another thing that catches my eye with regards to the poll, good basketball being played at the mid-major level. 11 teams with 20 or more wins. So that's that's something to keep an eye on with regards to the success of these basketball programs. See if they can continue keep things going in a positive direction, and more teams can make noise in the mid-major tournaments.
Success breeds success. A great
all
point.
the time.
I'm glad you pointed that out there. With that being said, let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side. Time to get into the major division basketball poll rankings. We'll get a chance to tell you what took place for the most part in these SWAC tournaments. We talked a little bit about these teams that will be moving to their national tournament at the Division I level. We'll tell and see Charles kind of give some thoughts on that. But let's see what that means in terms of the poll rankings in week number 11 after this next break.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab here with Charles Bishop. With that being said, let's get into the major division for the women. We did have some changes in the poll this week with the team dropping out, and that was Southern Jaguars that fall to 15-15 on the season, 13-5 in conference play. As people that have watched understood that. They did have a early quarter finals loss in the SWAC tournament, which hurt them in terms of the poll rankings. We'll see what that looks like. But receiving votes, Howard was not the team that was able to jump in, although Howard went to the MEAC championship game, winning 2 games and losing in that championship to Norfolk State, the reigning champion, regular season champion as well. Bison improved to 15-16 overall with the 2 wins in the tournament, including the loss. Finished 10-4 in conference play, as you know. Also receiving votes was North Carolina Central Eagles that did the 1-1. They had won the first quarterfinals game but lost in the semifinals. In the MEAC tournament, they fall to 16-15, 9-5 overall. In conference play, and that was 16-15 overall, I should say. Let's get into the top 5. That is number 5, UAPB Golden Lions. They win and they lose to the eventual champion Jackson State in the semifinals. Got back to some winning ways and closed things out pretty proudly in terms of how the end of the season went. They did have a winning season, 17-16, 11-5 They were not ranked last week, so they do jump in the top 5 with this ranking with 51 points. At number 4, North Carolina A&T State Aggies that were up at the top of the polls, kind of finished tough in the regular season. They rebound in the tournament. They win in the first round quarterfinals, lose in the semifinals, but they lose to Drexel, which was somewhat of a prize. But Drexel ultimately end up winning the Coastal Athletic Conference. Aggies finished the season, though, with 20 wins, 20-11, 13-5. They do move up a spot from 5 last week with the way they played in the tournament, rebounding a little bit, having 55 points. At number 3, Grambling State Tigers. They win, coming in the tournament with the number 2 seed, but a lot of people were surprised what they did this season. They finished with 22 wins overall, 22-9. Get to the semifinals as they ran into that Brave team that was just on the hot streak, as you ultimately said, opening things up. They do make it to the finals, but they run into the buzzsaw everybody seems to know about, the Tigers of Jackson State. But that's another conversation as we move up the polls. Grambling State, 15-3 in conference play, 62 points. I think if you had to do with trajectory, Grambling State Tigers, not just on the men's side they got it done, but on the women's side as well, is in the upward trajectory. And you talk about a university that's back in the basketball business, none other than Grambling State Tigers. And number 2, speaking of another basketball business program, that's Norfolk State Spartans. 3 wins in the MEAC. They're at 27-5, 13-1, and win. 1 first place vote, 73 points. Remain at number 2. They get into the NCAA tournament, 15 seed. Fascinating to see what that looks like as they play this weekend. At number 1, Jackson State Tigers. You talking about unfinished business. They did it in style, making a statement. 26 wins on the season, 26-6, 18-0, perfect conference record, sweeping it, and then they go in the tournament what they really wanted, and they do it in fine fashion, getting to the finals, getting it done, winning blowout fashion. 7 first place votes, 79 points. Number 1 is the Jackson State Tigers, getting a 14th seed in terms of the bid. They will face UConn, as you know, but they will be up to the test in terms of making a run and seeing what they can do in the NCAA Division I tournament. But Jackson State Tigers make a final statement on the season as we get to week 11. They're number 1. Boy, it would be fascinating if we could have a mid-season MEAC SWAC type game. Cool. February where you get right into the halfway mark. And, maybe start things early a week, and you have this perfect weekend where you can get Jackson State and Norfolk State to play. That would be fascinating to see that kind of matchup. Made for television. I have to put my bat phone out and maybe see if I can call the commissioner and see if he can find some additional money to get this done and reach out to the commissioner. I'll reach out to both of them, see what they think. They did talk about some matchups. I don't know if they're talking about midseason. Probably some coaches will have some concerns with that. Maybe we can get away with a non-conference play at the beginning of the season. But with that being said, Charles, enough of me. Week number 11, Dr. Cavill's HBCU Major Division Women's Basketball Poll Rankings. Things are coming down the stretch. Week 11, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you take a look at it, number 1, Jackson State, to be the hunted team all year and to get it done in the tournament, that speaks volumes about Tamika Reed. This, you can make a great argument in terms of Jackson State's women's basketball could be maybe the best time ever when talking about Jackson State's women's basketball. And they had some great teams with Coach Sadie McGee. But what Tamika Reed is doing at Jackson State right now, in a lot of ways, is unprecedented. And that's saying quite a bit in terms of what they were able to do, getting this 14 seed. But they were a team on a mission. I even made a joke, that last game against Alcorn. They're normally kind of loosey-goosey in warm-ups and, things that they had their business face on. They all that was out the door. They I think they had a team T-shirt, mission accomplished or something that effect. But Dominant. And when you take a look at the rest of the teams here in the top 5 poll, Norfolk State, tremendous run. You take your hat off to that program. Grambling got upended by an Alcorn team that got hot. And you take your hat off to Coach Nate Kilbert because this was a Grambling team that had come into the tournament. They had won 10 in a row. And they were a team not named Jackson State. They were as hot as anybody coming into the tournament. North Carolina A&T, great run. Another great season for them. The team that I'm keeping an eye on now, UAPB, as they got into the top 5, I think it's huge. Zay Green saying she's coming back for the 2024-25 season. Player of the Year candidate, all SWAC guard. But she mentioned that unfinished business. So it will be interesting to see if UAPB can finally make that leap going into next season. So very curious in terms of watching the UAPB Lady Lions program.
Great comments. Let's take our next break. We'll bring it back on the inside and give you the major division on the men's side in week number 11 and see what goes on there. Stick with us. Be right back after this break.
We're back. It's time for the 2024 Urban NerdCon. Join us in Atlanta, Georgia, April 26th through the 28th at the Cortland Grand Hotel. Special guests include Underworld creator Kevin Grievous, Gary Gray from Fairly Odd Parents, from Nickelodeon, Giovanni Samuels, the Science Machine Michael Green, the Sci-Fi Sisters, and from Spaceballs and Star Trek Voyager, Tim Russ.
Hi, I'm Tim Russ. Join me April 26th through the 28th at the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia for the Urban NerdCon. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone con. I'll see you there. Live long and prosper.
Visit theurbannerdcon.net to get your buy one, get one free badges before the price increases. Remember, our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, getting with Charles in terms of the major division. Let's get right to it, as we did have a team drop out. A team was really hot, but man, there's something about that quarterfinals. It's just a tough thing for the Braves right now. Alcorn State Braves fall in the opening round, that quarterfinal round on Wednesday. The Alcorn State Braves fall 14-18. That was the number 2 seed going in as they went down early, 13-5. Coach Bussey, you could tell he was quite frustrated. It didn't quite just go his way. Receiving votes, Tennessee State Tigers 18-15 as they close out the season. They had the OVC tournament the week before. A little disappointing that they didn't decide to continue the season to play on, but I guess oftentimes you have that focus. You have the huge longer layoff, though, in terms of what would be needed for a notification of them. 18-15, 10-8. I would love to have seen them in the CBI or CIT. Norfolk State, Tennessee State matchup in a CIT, for example, would have been fascinating. Southern Jaguars, 18-14, another team that would have been intrigued to see in the CIT, CBI, 12-6, 39 points, but certainly great seasons. A lot of people put so much energy in the tournament. When it doesn't quite go their way, you could also understand why some people want to hang it up in terms of suits. Transfer portal changes the game in a lot of ways as well. Could be some interesting things if you could get maybe CBI, CIT to take the next step and see about maybe doing some NIL partnerships in some ways to see what that would look like. Maybe that would provide some incentive to get some players in the tournament. With that being said, let's look at the top 5. As we get into the top 5, number 5, North Carolina Central Eagles. They go 1-1 in the tournament, losing in the semifinals, 18-13, 9-5. Coach Mooten had probably the comment of the day after his tough loss. You know, he does the interview and he said with the transfer portal, people are always asking about who's transfer out, and he talked about the fact, he said the transfer portal is kind of like dating your best friend's girlfriend. You know, he done told you everything, the bad, the good. And so you don't know, but you still, I guess, you go out there and try it out. So I thought that was interesting. Not necessarily saying whether he liked it or don't like. I think he probably kind of voiced Coach Wooten's concerns, but the way he put it, I thought was a good way in terms of how coaches have to. Yeah. At number 4, Howard Bison. They win 3, which means they win a championship. 18-16, 9-5. They had a chance to get a regular season share of the championship, lost to Norfolk State. But when they got it a chance again, they won that, and then they took out Delaware State. They got hot in the tournament. They were not ranked last week, but they jumped in the top 5 at number 4 with 51 points as they will play in that first 4. Fascinating matchup with Weber. Be interesting to see what that looks like with them. At number 3, just talked about Texas Southern as they play tonight, playing now in terms of their matchup with Tarleton. 2 wins and a loss in a championship game against Grambling. They were going for the Mission Impossible 4-peat, it seems like. Could not get it done. 12-6 on the regular season, 52 points. Previous ranked number 3. Bringing us number 2, Norfolk State Spartans losing in the semifinals. Tough matchup there. Howard 22-11, 11-3 on the season. Again, we say they will be in CIT. They will play the winner of Alabama A&M and also they do have 3 first-place votes as they are number 2. And number 1, Grambling State Tigers pick up a couple of first-place votes as they finish with 20 wins, 14 losses on the season. I shouldn't say finish because they are playing. Obviously, they play in the first 4. They play Montana State, 8 first-place wins, 106 points. And they continue to be ranked number 1. It'll be fascinating to kind of see with Grambling State and Howard in regards to how they get today, tomorrow. Howard playing today now. It'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 5 rankings for the major division of the men?
Well, I know this Coach Dante Jackson and Graham fam. They want all their first place votes. They got to share some of their first place votes with Norfolk State.
Right now, you got to ask those voters. They have a final statement. First 4, Norfolk State. You know, they in the CIT. We'll see in terms of who can make some runs. You know, with Grambling and Howard playing 16 seeds, you're playing some teams that you match up with. You would think, in regards to what that looks like. Unfortunately, I can give you an update on the Wagner and Howard. I said Weber, it was Wagner. Wagner is up 48-31. That game was on True TV. 16:22 left in the second quarter. So Howard is down big. We'd love to see them make a run, but we'll see what that looks like in terms of them closing out the season. So Grambling has a chance to make a huge statement tomorrow to maybe get all of those first place votes and come out with a total of 11 or maybe pick up a couple of more. Norfolk State is going to say, hey, they got a statement to make too. Much like Fayetteville State, they'll get a chance maybe to go deep in the tournament. Last time they were in that tournament like that, you know, NIT, they won a round. They went to Alabama, got it done. So this is a team that doesn't care what tournament they're in. They're going to try to win some games. They've had some major success in terms of their non-conference with mid-major matchups. Hampton and Texas Southern last time they went CIT went to the Final Four. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like when you talk about these postseason tournaments and the poll rankings.
Yeah, I agree with the poll rankings. I will say team receiving votes that I was impressed by. Bethune-Cookman, they finished the game above 500 overall with regards to their record, 11-7 in SWAC play. They got their first ever SWAC tournament win. So kudos to Reggie Theus and his program. They look like to be a program ascending upward. So we'll see if they can challenge to get into that upper echelon next year. But you can't say enough about the Grambling State Tigers, regular season champions as well as SWAC tournament champions. Dante Jackson is putting it together, and this isn't just 1 year wonder. They regular season champions last year, and they finally got the 600-pound gorilla off their back with winning the SWAC tournament, finally getting past Texas Southern. So that was huge for this program.
Good stuff. That is a perfect way to walk off when you talk about Grambling, because I know you have a question back in regards to Grambling and Howard in our last segment, which has become a lot of people's favorite segment, where we get a chance to ask the dean, if you would, a question or two. With that being said, we'll take a last break. We'll come back on the other side and get into that question from Charles. Question of the day, if you would. With that, stick with us. Be right back after this break. Before we get into the break, Wagner 48, Howard 34, chopping down the lead a little bit, 14:58 lead. Down to 14. Can they get it to 10 by that 10-minute mark? See if it's a game. Sticker will be right back after this break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Cavil's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Cavil's Voice, Cavil's Voice, CavilsVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messages quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Shout out to G. Boone Holly giving us an update. Texas Southern is down with 14 left in the second half, 43-40. Edwin has a breakdown of Howard down 50-37 in the second half, 13 minutes left there. So good updates. Appreciate you. Keep it coming right in here in terms of how we look in these tournaments as the teams get ready to close up the season. With that being said, as we get into the segment, you have another update there, Charles?
No. Quick shout out to Texas Southern, because I think they only went down there with 7 or 8 players. They've had a couple of opt-outs, a couple of injuries, so they're really thin down there fighting Charleston State. So.
Yeah, you doing that again. I remember when they went, and I got to see them play when they went won 3 games, got to the Final Four of the CIT 4 years ago when they played into it, and eventually. A lot of those players came out of that game that were young, that stuck around and wanted to get some playing time. They contributed mightily to Texas Southern, particularly when they went on the 3-year run for winning the championship tournament. So the fact you have some guys that stuck it out and they're battling, be interesting to see if they can find a way to get it done. Kudos for Dr. Granger, giving the players the option and supporting the ones they wanted to play, along with coach supporting them. With that being said, I know you like to get into this segment. A lot of people are really focused on it. Go ahead and take it away, Charles.
Yeah, unique questions this week. I got a couple questions actually to throw out at you, but we'll start here. And this is something that you kind of take a look at in regards to Grambling basketball. Really, they've come on here since 2017, since Dante Jackson has come into the program. But you talk about 3 regular season titles, 1 tournament title in 7 years in terms of talking about Grambling basketball. And then Howard, back-to-back MEAC championships. And we know the perceptions of both schools. Howard, the academic mecca, if you will, the mecca as they call it. But now they've gone to the Celebration Bowl, and now they've won back-to-back MEAC championships. Grambling, we know the storied history of Grambling football with regards to Eddie Robinson, Doug Williams, Collie Nicholson, and all that. But now the basketball team has really turned the corner in terms of being in that upper echelon in the SWAC. So the question becomes, Doc, is the perception of Grambling changing? Are they now a basketball school? And same thing in regards to Howard. Can we still make the wine and cheese jokes in regards to Howard anymore? Because they're actually getting it done on the field of fields and arenas, if you will.
I love the question there, and I think from this standpoint, you be at your own risk if you continue to play with Howard. I think that is a very healthy swimming, doing a softball in terms of what that looks like, and obviously doing it in football and now basketball, and that's men's and women's. So no doubt in my mind that Howard is here to stay in terms of being in it, and it's intriguing because they went a different route than Grambling. And so you talk about the coach that is leading them, a coach that comes from a pedigree blue blood program, but also understands the private school approach and his ability to recruit kids and recruiting talented kids that play basketball at a high level, but are academic too. You know, you have the reports out there that Cavil couldn't get enough of the fact that you have a young man that transferred multiple times, but he's not your traditional transfer. When you think about it, he's working on his PhD. He was finishing his degrees as he was transferring and getting stuff done. You got students in law school over there. So you have high caliber individuals that are transferring in, getting it done. You talk about Grambling. Yeah, I think you'd be in trouble about joking about them. That is certainly a basketball program now, and they're doing it both on the men's and women's side, much like Howard in regards to doing it on both sides. Obviously, this is a new step, and we'll kind of see a little more about women in terms of Grambling's basketball. But to get off to this type of start, I'd be surprised if she can't find a way to continue to get it done. But on the men's side with Jackson, and he has climbed up the ranks. This is a guy that coming out of Milwaukee, transferred in Central State and made the most of it. NIA program, this is before they joined the SIAC. He wins down there and gets them into independent championship and gets them in the NIA tournament. He goes to Stillman. This is when Stillman was part of the SIAC before they dropped down to the NIA, and he leads them to SIAC championship on a mighty run. And then he goes to Grambling. So this is a guy that knows how to win championship and build program. So to me, you can't do it at the NIA level, going back to your alma mater, getting it done, getting them so strong that they became a viable option to move from the NIA to Division II into the SIAC. He does Stillman, and they have one of their best seasons in terms of SIAC. And now, obviously, Stillman and NIA, and now they're moving back in terms of HBCU ranks as they're going to join. At that time will be the HBCU Athletic Conference as they hosted the GCAC tournament this year. And so to Jackson, getting done. I mean, he was in the mix a couple of years ago. They finally got to the top of the mountain in the regular season, get a regular season championship. They doubled down when everybody's looking in a lot of different directions. They get another championship. And this is in a conference that's quite deep in terms of teams that are playing some really good basketball. You ask any of the coaches and players, they'll tell you it's tough in this league. And he plays for a conference championship last year, loses to Texas Southern that would not relinquish the championship. He beats a coach over there at Texas Southern. In his 5 years in the conference, when he's in the tournament, he's only been to championship games. He loses to Prairie View before COVID. Nobody plays, obviously, COVID year. He has a 3-year run in terms of the championship. And lose it this year to who? Coach Jackson in terms of Gramblings. To give you some indication, with a doubt on my mind, this is a program to keep your eyes on moving forward. They're just getting started, in my opinion. And then you got a athletic director in Travion Scott that is finding ways to support his programs, doing upgrades. Just missed last year a top 5 AD. Let me give you a little early indication. Obviously, we don't count those eggs before they hatch.
Yeah.
Winning kind of championships, what he did, he has a chance and likely will be in the top 5 this year in terms of the AD's rankings, as I like to do for the second year. And we'll do that in May as you get your all-conference champions so we can get all the data to figure out the numbers there.
And those ADs be looking for those rankings, Doc. So they pay attention.
I'm glad that they respect them in that manner. I certainly look forward to doing that analysis and giving kudos is what it really is. It's not to hinder those that don't happen to be in the top 5, but it's really to give kudos to those in the top 5, including Norfolk State AD. As man, she has a train rolling over there, and she looks to keep on her marks in terms of being in the top 5. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Obviously, if Travion Scott gets in the top 5, wasn't in there, that means somebody might get bumped out. So we'll see what that means.
Is true.
Who's going to find a way to stay in that top 5? It might be more than one. We'll see. I know you had a follow-up question you want to ask as well.
Yeah, well, obviously, there's always a lot of dialogue in regards to looking at the postseason tournaments in terms of the attendance, whether you're talking about the CIAA, whether you're talking about the SWAC, the MEAC, or SIAC tournaments, GCAC, and of course all these tournaments, whether you're talking about major or mid-major postseason tournaments. Everybody always pays attention to the attendance and what can be done better, what hasn't been tried, or things of that nature. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out at you in terms of what needs to be done to potentially improve attendance, or what exactly, why does the attendance numbers look like they do?
I think it's fascinating when you start looking at these question attendance. And I think we have to be careful, one, to put all the marbles in just the attendance basket, first of all. While you always want to improve on your product, I think it's important to look at things contextually across the board with that saying. But before I finish the rest of this, do want to give an update there. Texas Southern, Tarleton, 1-point game, 48-49. Tarleton State is leading with 9:19 left. And I told you about getting it to the 10-point mark. You have Howard 47, Wagner 57 with 10:32 as that game should be interesting. Update here, G. Boone Holly. They are tied now in the Texas Southern and Tarleton game at 51. But to get back to your question in regards to that, I think sometimes we get so immersed, and some people will get out there and get you in the lather about attendance. And everybody will focus SWAC, SIAC, and concerns there. And relatively, people like to look at CIAA and the MEAC that do relatively well in terms of their attendance and certainly have a focus. And then people will turn and say, just market. And, you know, as a professor that has heard me talking about marketing and teaching these classes of marketing, it's more than just being able to see market. I mean, first you need to understand segmentations of the market. Who are you marketing to? And what does it look like in terms of these tournaments? We've seen the SWAC played in different areas across the SWAC footprint, some outside of the SWAC footprint. Big cities, small cities, casinos, non-casinos, central location, whether it's Biloxi, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Garland, Dallas, high school stadiums, Toyota Center, NBA, in terms of what that looks like. We've seen it all over the place, Birmingham, and now people are talking about maybe Atlanta. People will be frustrated. Some people say they like Atlanta because it's a place to go. Other folks will say it's too far outside of the footprint. None of those things matter in regards to where it is. You know, folks that are entertained by this and want to come will come, cover it. Some places, while it may be out of the footprint, could be destination cities. It may be easier to fly into for some folks. Regionally, you have a large alumni groups. But also, when you look at it in terms of the distance of the SWAC and its coverage, There's no such thing as a central location. You may be central to 14, but the problem you have with that is, do those team fans follow their teams or do they follow the conference? Because we seen, for example, when it was here in Houston, Texas Southern and Prairie View were on the run. They were playing really good with the tournament here. And when they made it to the semifinals or finals, the attendance did really well. But when they didn't, the attendance wasn't as strong.
Sure.
Same thing with Birmingham. When Alabama State and Alabama A&M were doing well, Birmingham attendance is really well. When they're not doing well, it's not. And so that's what you have to consider when you talk about that. And the other thing people say, well, just market like the CIAA. Well, if it was just marketing, explain to me in terms of football, when you look at the CIAA and MEAC. If it was just marketing, they could turn the switch and do it in football. So sometimes you also have to look at the regionality. You know, what sport actually has more of the focus for programs in that region? What regions are dedicated more and have a historical fan base that follow certain sports? And that could be an issue. And so marketing to that group is not going to be simple, because if you're going to market to a group, what segmentation are you marketing? Are you marketing to, high school students? Are you marketing to college students? Are you marketing to those students that recently graduated, that are alumni, that have children in terms of the space, that are chasing their job aspirations and growing in their career? Are you doing with those folks that are settled in their career and they're in executive administrative type positions? Do they have the time to do it? Are you marketing to the retiree? And maybe you're saying you're going to market to all those groups, but think what it's going to cost you to market to all those groups. And do you necessarily get the return on the investment in terms of when you're going to market to them? Because how are you going to market to them? Because all those marketing groups are going to have different marketing styles. So, for example, you talked about the earlier segment with giving kudos to the folks that do the radio station. What segment of the market is listening to the folks on the radio? It may be an older segment. So to market to them, if they listen to the radio, which means you need to take out marketing radio ads. But if you're going to market towards high school students, they're looking at social media platforms. So you're going to have to do a marketing plan on social media. If you're talking about mid-management folks, they're doing a whole different thing. They may be doing a hybrid in terms of still marketing where they like to go to clubs with the flyers. So you might need to do flyers to market to them. And you got to know where to do those flyers. So when you get into marketing, that sounds good. But what does it really mean when you say marketing? So if I had somebody and they told me marketing, I'd be like, what type of marketing are you talking about? Let's really get down to the grassroots. And I think people will, sometimes get a little frustrated because they don't want to get into those real questioning dialogues. What do you mean marketing? And then again, as I said, some things are just regionality based. And so your expectation. The last thing I want to say about this that I think is also important is you also need to look at what you're talking about in terms of the conference, whether it's SWAC or SIAC, Charles, and what is the comparison to other tournaments. You have some tournaments that start on Tuesday and Wednesday because they bring all their teams in, and you look at their midweek early day games. They're broadcast on TV, you're getting the revenue for TV, but they don't have large attendance numbers. And you can go sometimes the semifinals. So you have some programs that are known as basketball programs, whether that is Texas Southern, some people say Alabama A&M, even though they've been on a hard time, or Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Tennessee State, that are basketball heavy institution, North Carolina A&T, when they had their run, the first years of the MEAC, those are well-oiled machines in terms of fan base that love basketball and follow basketball. Some of them in basketball territories have rich history, and you have folks that will follow those programs. So it'll be similar to like a Kentucky or Duke, right? Indiana, in terms of them going to a tournament early, they get a crowd. But you go look at a Florida early, or Auburn even early in the SEC, they talked about the fact that they didn't have a huge following. They had family and friends following early in the tournament. Now they flip the switch. They get to Saturday. They get in there. But what happened to Jackson State when they got to Saturday? They had a crowd that came in. So you also, are you talking about championship Saturday when these conferences have long, significant crowds? Friday night when people really can travel, get off work, they have crowds? Or are you talking about more about on Wednesday or Thursday when folks are not going to take off work to go to a conference? Because in our community, people save their work for vacation or going to their fraternity conventions, sorority conventions, going to their church conventions in the summer. So they're saving those days and they're not in a position where they can just take off work. And then you have the difference. It's funny to me because you'll have media pundits that will talk about this. And our responsibility is to cover. So it's different for us. We schedule and plan to go and cover. But who's going to stay in the arena all day? Half of the folks that I talk to on the media side, they talk about how exhausting it is. And they're right.
Yeah.
All day is exhausting. So who's going to actually pay to go see 4 basketballs a game? You're talking about basketball heads that do that, or media people that make it their living and their interest to cover it, which people appreciate because they can't do it. Now, if they there, they don't necessarily need you to cover it. So be careful about talking yourself out of your own job in regards to realistically. Folks come to see their team. They might stay because they're in there for a round and see the next team or half of the game there. But other than ADs, media folks, coaches, they're not going to sit in there for a full day of basketball. And that's any conference. You don't see that with any conference. So I think sometimes we just need to really take a second look at this and be a little more realistic. So I did want to leave it there in terms of what that looks like. As we close it down, you have Texas Southern 53, Tarleton State 54, 7:24 left. Howard at 49, Wagner at 59 with 9:56 left. Any final thoughts that you want to share, Charles, before we call it a show?
Yeah, I thought we had some great tournaments in terms of Howard fighting through to get the MEAC championship. The same thing in regards to Jackson State's women, 14 seed, winning over there in the SWAC, and Grambling. We talked about the perception changing with regards to Grambling being more of a basketball school now. And from a mid-major standpoint, Langston is looking very dominant. They look like a team that is poised to go after that national championship. So looking forward to those teams that are still playing. We'll keep up with them and we'll report on them on Thursday.
I like that. Shout out to Fayetteville State making a significant run Division II. I know it came to the end today, but they took us on a wonderful ride. Great points you're making. I look forward to that. We'll talk about it on Thursday. I'll be on the road in Charleston, but I'll give you and hook up with Charles. We'll do a show there as we come to close. Thank you for listening. The Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. We hope you enjoyed the show. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next Thursday as we'll discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyatta Cavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
See if Brian ready for this. Brian?
Lecture.
Dismiss. Good job, Brian. he owned it, man. Bad boy. Make sure you check out their shows, obviously, on him on the ONG Strike Zone on Wednesday. And then they do their Sunday edition with AD, giving you the sports wrap. We'll be back on Thursday. Carlos on Saturday as he brings in the triumphant, fascinating show when he brings the voice of, obviously, you shouted out Charles Edmond, Tall Man Radio, giving you that perspective. Previous AD, previous coach, Petaway, and the nature. So it's good to see what he does. Carlos always finding a way to change the game. One of the best in the business. With that being said, see you on Thursday.